Hi, I'm Rockin Robin from CookingMexicanRecipes.com, and today I'm going to be making bunuelos, which is basically a Mexican donut. We're going to deep fry it, and then we're going to top it with a mixture of cinnamon and sugar. First off, we're going to need three and a third cups of flour, and we're going to double sift that. I've got a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of baking powder, and make sure it's fresh, 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, a quarter cup of melted butter, 2 eggs, and we'll need a half a cup of milk plus 2 teaspoons. And of course, we're going to need some oil. Canola oil works or vegetable oil works for deep frying these. And then also over here, this is our topping. This is our mixture. I've got 1 cup of sugar mixed in with a tablespoon of ground cinnamon. So the first thing we want to do before we start mixing our dough is to heat up our oil and just get it so it's the right temperature. So turn the flame on. Now, I'm using a fairly small pan here because I don't want to use a whole lot of oil, and we've got to get it deep enough so that the bunuelos will float. So I'm going to fill my oil probably halfway up here. And I'm going to use a thermometer. I'm going to want that thermometer to reach at least 350, but between 350 and 375 before we actually cook them, because otherwise they'll get soggy and they'll absorb a lot of the oil. So the temperature of the oil is critical, so we got to get it up there. Right now I've still got some mixing to do, so I'm going to keep the temperature low and just bring it up gradual. All right, let's go back to mixing our dough. So now let's start with our dough. Now the first thing we want to do is we're going to want to double sift our flour. Now that's really important so that we keep the dough nice and light. All right, so the first thing we do is I got a piece of wax paper down here just to help with cleanup and keep things neat. And we have our sifter. So I'm going to take I've got 4 cups of flour here, which I'm just going to sift. I'm going to pour most of it into the sifter, and I'm going to sift directly into my 1 cup measuring cup. Now it's not all going to fit in there, but that's okay. We just want to get a lot of air into our flour. Then I'm going to level it off, and I'm going to gently place it into another bowl. Now the reason I do it gently is so I don't pack it in. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to sift our ingredients into our big bowl. So you're going to take your flour and sort of gently lay it into the sifter inside the bowl here so we don't pack it down. Remember, we have our 3 1/3 cups of flour here. And we're going to sift it together with our salt, sugar, and baking powder. Our salt, we'll sprinkle it right on top. And our baking powder. And our sugar. Now this is going to provide a lot of air and make our dough nice and light. So before we add our eggs and our butter to our flour, first we want to combine our eggs with our milk. So just crack them, put them in a bigger bowl, and then we'll add our milk and just blend it together. That way it mixes in really nice. So we'll just mix this up until it's nice and blended. Okay, so now I'm going to take my melted butter and I'm going to add it to the flour mixture, and I'm going to start mixing that in. I'm going to start with my wooden spoon, and then I'm just going to use my hands. Just get this mixed up a little bit. That butter's going to give it some really nice flavor. Now we're going to add the egg and the milk mixture. Now pour this in and start mixing as we go. And we're just going to combine this until we get a nice dough. You can see it's starting to thicken up. I just want to work all that flour in. Okay, so you can see that the dough is now like a ball of mass, and it's pretty much worked in. So I'm going to sprinkle some flour onto my counter surface a little bit, and I'm going to knead the dough for just a little bit till it's nice and soft. And it's not sticky particularly, so we just do this for just maybe a minute or two until it gets nice and smooth. Okay, so now what we're going to do, now that our dough is ready, we're going to just pinch off little balls about the size of a golf ball, approximately, and you can make them as big as you want. But I'm going to take it, about like this, and just going to roll it up. I like them a little on the smaller side, makes more that way, and just put them on a plate. And just do that with the rest of the dough, and once we get that done, then we're ready to deep fry them. All right, so I finished rolling the balls. I've got 26 out of this batch, and now we want to cover them with some, paper towels or just a nice clean towel, and we're going to let them sit for about 15 minutes before we actually deep fry them. All right, our dough has been resting now for 15 minutes, so it's time to take it and roll it out. Now just pick up a ball. Now I'm using a pastry cloth because I like to use them as the dough doesn't stick. Spread a little bit of flour on top of that. And then I'm just going to pat that down. We just want to roll this out a little bit. These are pretty small. Sometimes you have to put a little flour on your pin, and you just want to roll it out till it's about an eighth of an inch thick. Now you can make these a lot bigger if you want. Certainly can make them as big as you like. But that's about it. I'm just going to roll it out like that. And it really is, it's sticking more to the rolling pin than it is to the cloth. And you can do this on a wood surface, a cutting board. Just put a little flour down. And then I'm going to place it on some wax paper. And then I'll just keep rolling out the balls. And just until I've got them all rolled out the way I want them, and then we'll deep fry them. I've rolled out a batch of the dough, and so we're ready to cook it. Now it's really critical here that we have our temperature of the oil at the right amount. So I've got my little thermometer here, and it tends to fall over, so I have to be really careful. But right now I've got the temperature, it's almost 375, and that's really where it needs to be. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how we do this. We take our little dough here and lay it in, and at first it tends to sink, but then it rises up. So I'm going to put 2 in for now, and it takes about 30 seconds per side. So you can see how they're starting to bubble up, and they really get kind of fat. They kind of expand quite a bit. So check it at about 30 seconds. You can just lift it up, have a peek underneath, not ready yet. And you may have to play with your temperature. You watch your thermometer if you can get it to stay in there, and if it starts to drop because you've added dough, then you might want to turn it up just a little bit. So here you can see, now this one's starting to get a little brown, not quite yet there, because we want that dough to cook inside. And then once I'm done, I'm going to put it right here on this pan here. I've got a paper towel covered cookie sheet. Okay, I'm going to flip these over, and you can see how nice and golden that one is. And that one. Another 30 seconds about on this side. We'll transfer them to the tray, and then we want to apply the cinnamon sugar pretty quick so that it will stick while it's hot. All right, so we'll let that cook just a little bit more. And I can probably cook 4 at a time in here, but just for right now I wanted to show you guys just 2 at a time. It's just a little bit easier to handle. And you can see, they've really plumped up. Okay, so I'm going to take these out, let it drain for just a second, place it on there, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some sugar. Different ways you can do this, but I'm just going to take the spoon and sprinkle it over, and then I'm going to flip them over because personally I think this is the best part, and we want to get that sugar on all sides. So I'm going to go ahead and put some more on here. And some people make buñuelos in a circle, like just instead of rolling them out, they leave them in a circle. And I don't find that works quite as well because it's harder to cook the dough all the way through, and so rolling them out like this really works well. Okay, so I just kind of shook off some of the excess sugar, but there you go. That's how you do it. So our bunuelos are done. I hope you enjoyed that video, and you'll give these a try. And if you do, make sure and leave me a comment down there below in the description. And be sure and visit my website at cookingmexicanrecipes.com. I also want to mention that I've started a newsletter, so if you're interested in signing up for my free newsletter, please do so. I'll leave a link down in the description. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.